hit subscribe. Subscribe to my guy, Uncle D. Tell him Big Bass sent you.
Spurling. I'm an attorney here in Houston, Texas. An advocate for black men, largely because I am a black man. I'm a black father. I have black sons. Hey man, I do what I do.
Example out of me. I said something against this guy that came to look at this situation. His name was the lead attorney. I said something. All right, welcome back to the broadcast. Hit the #1 button if you can hear me clearly. Big shout out to everybody in the chat room. Shout out to Mr. 43TX. Shout out to somebody said they can't hear me. Yeah, I know, baby. I'm back. Welcome. My name is Dennis Spurling. I'd like to welcome everybody here to the broadcast. I hope you all appreciate this mid-afternoon broadcast. I wanted to take the opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with you all about what I see is an escalating legal matter. As you guys know, I'm an attorney. I've been practicing law for, it's to be 26 years in October. My dad, the gentleman you see over my shoulder, is also an attorney, and he practiced law here in Houston, Texas for, I guess, a little under 40 years before he passed away. So it's in my blood, you know. In addition to that, my wife's attorney. My son is on his way to law school. So, you know, this is kind of like the family business. You know, it's something we've been involved in. And, you know, I have attorneys that date back all the way back to the 1800s. You know, my great-great-great-grandfather, George Washington Jones, was an attorney. But either way, I want to talk to you guys about a matter, and it has to do with this, what we'll call this media war brewing between O'Shea Duke Jackson, Cory Holcomb, and the lead attorney, and their fans. And I'm sure many of you are their fans. And the thing is, here's the thing. We're talking about all black men, and they're caught in the middle of this situation. And we can start with O'Shea Duke Jackson. Okay, O'Shea responded to Cory, and what happened? O'Shea came out responding to Cory Holcomb's live stream, which was entitled "Media War Against 5150," and where Cory addressed the critics. Several personalities, including Poetic Flacco, Joe Budden, and O'Shea himself. And while O'Shea says he didn't receive the harshest roasting compared to the others, Cory allegedly suggested that O'Shea's criticism stemmed from insecurity. Basically saying he's ugly. Okay. And O'Shea strongly rejected that claim, and he argued that looks are irrelevant and to the real issue, and that's the actual problem is Cory's behavior and contradictions. Now the dispute centers around a controversial incident involving a shirt depicting Anton Daniels and his family as primates, and according to O'Shea, Cory's attempt to pressure Darlene, who is a co-host on the 5150 show, to hold up the shirt on air. And she refused. When she refused, Cory responded in a immature manner, and he would and said he would get someone else to hold it up. Okay, and O'Shea clarified that he never accused Cory Holcomb of depicting all black people as primates, but rather pointed out that with someone who positions themselves as a pro-black, that is, and critical of racism, I should say, displaying such imagery was hypocritical and a bad look. Okay, and I would tend to agree with that. I don't always believe we should leave the children out. Even in my early discussion of this matter, I had an issue with that. I just think we should, let the entertainment be entertainment, but we should leave the children out of this. That's just my opinion. Now, Cory accused O'Shea of lying, okay, about the situation and hinted at possible legal consequences and referencing Tasha K's lawsuit as an example. And then O'Shea dismissed the threat, argued that the video evidence supports his version of the events, and suggested Cory was manipulating the narratives while contradicting himself about how internet content works. But despite the tension, O'Shea maintained that he does not want to see Cory fail. He acknowledged Cory's talent and influence within Black YouTube and culture in general, but argued that Cory is self-sabotaging by engaging in unnecessary online beefs instead of focusing on comedy and content. Now, okay, there's another situation that arose, and this is the portion of the story that actually comes from completely separate broadcast by the lead attorney. It was entitled, "Cory Holcomb Calls Me Out for Lying. Okay, here's the receipts." And in this video, the lead attorney responds directly to Cory Holcomb, accusing him of lying about receiving permission to interview Cory's attorney. Okay, and of course, when I heard that threw up some red flags for me. I'm like, oh man, what's happening? But either way, in this broadcast, the lead attorney explains that Cory publicly claimed that he never gave anyone permission to speak to his lawyer, okay? And suggested that the reason that the lead attorney stayed quiet was because he knew he was wrong, okay? As if there's no other reason for a person not to respond, okay? Sometimes you just want to let things de-escalate. And, nevertheless, Cory framed it as a matter of integrity, saying that if he said something, it's truth, and that he was prepared to make an example out of anyone contradicting him, okay? And the lead attorney then methodically breaks down the timeline. All right, after Cory's live stream about Christina Payne's situation, and this is where he allegedly was in some sort of altercation with, some woman. Nevertheless, the lead attorney reached out directly to Cory's attorney, a gentleman who I'm not going to name on my broadcast, but requested an interview because he believed Cory was being unfairly portrayed in that legal dispute. But the attorney responded professionally, stating that he would check with Cory first. And then shortly after that, the attorney followed up and said it was clear it was clear to speak, according to what lead attorney produced, and that indicated that he had consulted with Cory. That would be normal operating procedure for lawyers. Clear with your client first, but from there they began coordinating dates and times for the interview, and they exchanged emails, even shared official contact information. And the lead attorney explains that he rarely shows private communications, but because Cory publicly accused him of lying, and he felt compelled to defend himself, and so he presented the receipts, and he displays the messages showing the attorney confirming the clearance, discussing the schedule for Friday, which would have been last Friday evening, and providing contact details to move forward with the interview. And however, on the day of the interview, it was set to occur, the attorney abruptly canceled, citing that there was a gag order in place and he couldn't talk about it. And this is the case where he allegedly was involved in an altercation with some female somewhere, all right, in California. But nevertheless, lead attorney questions this explanation. He did it on his broadcast. He noted that the attorney had already appeared on Cory's own show discussing the same case while this supposed gag order was in place. And he emphasized that he was not asking for privileged information, only publicly available filings and legal commentary. So importantly, the lead attorney states that he was actually supportive of Cory in the Christina Payne matter, and he believed that Cory was getting a raw deal, and he says he remained silent out of respect for Cory and previously invited him on the 5150 show. Apparently, Lead had gone out there to hang out with Cory Holcomb and at his show, and it was all good. They treated him well, very respectful, and so I guess this came to a surprise. It came as a surprise that he would be attacked like this, but nevertheless, he didn't want to embarrass Cory or expose any internal miscommunication. But once his reputation, and keep in mind, lead attorney is an attorney, and once his reputation was questioned, all right, and done so publicly, and with Cory Holcomb labeling him a liar, he felt obligated to defend himself with documentation. And the core issue, according to the lead attorney, isn't that the interview was canceled. That was the attorney's choice, but Cory's publicly denied he ever gave him permission, or should I say, Cory publicly denied ever giving permission when the attorney explicitly said he'd been cleared to speak. Okay, and that may not seem like a big deal, but it's a big deal because the lead attorney frames the situation as simple. Either Cory is mistaken or Cory's attorney acted without properly informing him. But he insists that he himself didn't lie, okay? And so now here we are, this is the second layer of this media war, and involving not just YouTube personalities, but questions of professional ethics, attorney-client communication, reputation, and public credibility within this black media space. And so, I just felt compelled to chime in on this. And, hopefully when I finish with this broadcast, cooler heads will prevail. And these gentlemen will see fit to, subside. I don't know if this is about media or if this is about an actual dust up. But I'm going to let you all hear what O'Shea and Cory Holcomb have been saying, and I'm not going to play it in its detail. You guys can go check their broadcast out, but I hope by the time I finish with this broadcast, it'll be pretty clear as to what the legal stance is, and then folks can stop threatening to call their lawyer. And I think that the lawyer involved in this, he perhaps may want to heed my warning, because again, I'm not here to tell anybody anything, but what we'll do is we'll let a few videos play. You guys hit the #1 button, and I have fair use. I'm stating fair use because I don't want to get any copyright strikes, but I'm using this for the purposes of educating the public. So let's see what this says. You guys hit the #1 button, and we'll be what we'll try to do is get this thing rolling right now. All right, here we go. Fair use. Okay, so this is O'Shea Duke Jackson's page. I'm only using it for the purpose of discussing what's said and laying the foundation. Hit the #1 button if you can hear it clear. Shout out to O'Shea Duke Jackson and Mr. Cory Holcomb and lead attorney. Let's see, we got this.
With some level of lawsuit threat, and
do everything in your way to try to manipulate the guidelines of the internet. YouTube, for example, you manipulate it.
All right, so basically what Mr. Holcomb is saying is that O'Shea Duke Jackson manipulates YouTube. Now, I've sued YouTube before, and I'm very familiar with their attorneys. And, once you get a certain level of fame, notoriety, subscribers, then certain privileges come along with that. But really, it just amounts to it gives you communication. That's it. You know, nothing more than that. So this statement that, you know, O'Shea is manipulating the YouTube might be, or internet, is probably a little dramatized, if you will. Let's keep listening to Mr. Holcomb.
But you're going to have to manipulate this in another way because you outright lied. I got you in more than this lie. And
so again, and I'm going to stop and start this thing because it needs some explanation. If you want to see the video, you can go check their videos out on their page. But basically, he's accusing O'Shea Duke Jackson of lying on him. Okay. So,
what you'll find out on the internet, you think you can just say whatever you want to say, but Tasha K had to get that girl $6 million.
So
he's referring to the lawsuit Cardi B suing Tasha K, who's another prominent YouTuber, for defamation over in Atlanta a couple of years back.
he says, listen, you know, I know how to manipulate the things on the internet, which is he tried to have the most balanced and patient approach to me. Maybe because, like, I don't know, I guess roasting me in your typical ways probably won't work like it will with somebody else, but it's okay. He says, I know how to manipulate the systems on the internet. He used an example of Tasha K in the framework. And that is interesting because I've heard Cory Holcomb say, if you post it on the internet, it belongs to me. Isn't that what he said about, you know, somebody posting?
And the thing is, you got to understand, this is O'Shea's territory. You're not going to beat O'Shea in a YouTube battle. O'Shea will make video after video, very entertaining. O'Shea is brilliant also. You guys may not know this, but O'Shea is a medical school graduate. Okay, so that puts him on a whole nother level of brilliance and intelligence. So, you know, I'm sure O'Shea has thought this thing through thoroughly, and this is his realm, you know. So it's like trying to fight the devil in hell. You probably don't with a with a snowball. But anyway, let's keep listening.
Anton Daniels' wife or Anton Daniels' daughter. So when it benefits you, it belongs to the game. Now, if I come out here and say something different, then it doesn't belong to the game. Now, obviously, we have seen you.
All right, so that's one video. And, you know, so that kind of sums it up. This is some real media beef going on here between these guys, man. So let's go to this other one here. Take a listen. You guys let me know if you can hear it clearly.
Lied about quite a few things that you'll see. You'll see. You'll see.
Somebody type you'll see in the chat room. Somebody type you'll see in the chat
what you
room.
lied about, because I think you're insecure because of the way you look.
Okay, so again, that's how this got sorted out. Now, I'm gonna let you hear some other videos. That's the back and forth between O'Shea and Mr. Cory Holcomb. And now we have some back and forth between Mr. Holcomb and the lead attorney. I'm gonna let y'all listen to this. I'm going to say it's extraordinary to say the least. Okay, y'all check it out. Let me know if you can hear it clearly, and I'm going to thoroughly address this when we get to that section. All right, boom.
Up your attorney. Your attorney gets back to me. What does he say? Let's look down.
Okay, so let me run. I got another couple of videos in here I want to play first before we get too deep into that.
Up your attorney. Get up your attorney.
All right. Get this in here. And you guys make sure, if you have any questions about this matter, feel free to contact me in the chat.
There are two.
All right. Hit me up in the chat. I'll try to answer as many questions as I can for you guys. This is, of course, it's not something I normally. Somebody said there's an echo. Let me see if I can fix that echo. Somebody says there's always an echo, right? Boom. Well, there shouldn't be an echo. There should definitely not be an echo. Okay? If there's still an echo after this, let me know, but there should not be an echo. Somebody let me know if we're having sound issues. There shouldn't be an echo at all. All right? Should not be an echo at all. Okay. Somebody said no. Oh, okay, yeah, okay. So anyway, let's get back to the video. All right,
It's
let's
the truth.
listen.
I got to make an example. You know what I'm saying? If I said it, it's the truth. I got to make an example out of this.
All right, guys. So Cory Holcomb is about to make an example out of me.
I said something.
Now, look, anytime you find yourself threatening an attorney on the internet, you should probably stop. Okay, let me just suggest, all you regular folks out there, if you find yourself about to prove an attorney wrong or threaten an attorney on the internet or anywhere else, you might want to simmer down, because the internet is forever. And, I'll just say this, attorneys know things, okay? And I can tell by Lee's posture. If you ever have an attorney looking at you like that in court, then, he's just waiting for his cue. It's like dropping a meaty bone on the ground for a hungry tiger, okay? But let's go ahead and listen to him.
I'm against this guy that came up to our show. Mm-hmm. His name, I'm going to take the chance and say his name. His name was the lead attorney. Mm-hmm. I said something about him because I saw him.
Now, the thing is, the reason Cory Holcomb is reluctant to mention the lead attorney's name, because conflict, and you know how y'all are. I mean, I'm trying to be as professional as I can, but I know how you all are, and you know how I am, and I want to chop a few words up. But you all like conflict, okay? You all like the mess of it. Now, you will come over here and you'll listen to me, and I can talk about history for 3 or 4 hours, and I appreciate you guys. But at the end of the day, we know you all are messy, okay? We know you like mess. Somebody typed messy in the chat room. You like the beef. You like the conflict. And the thing is, by mentioning the lead attorney's name, then guess what's going to happen, right? People are going to go on over there and see what he has to say. And then now he gets more followers and subscribers. And then, then they're going to come back, So they got a triangle of mess going on. And they got Cory Holcomb, the, lead attorney, to O'Shea Duke Jackson. And I think Anton Daniels, he got in there and got out. So, that's not really what I do. I kind of want to, I just like doing what I do. I like to talk to you all late at night. Shout out to all the truck drivers who are listening to me on the road. That's kind of what I do. The people who are about to go to sleep, I talk you to sleep about historical facts. But this midday stuff, this is the midday stuff that most people like, because it's messy. You see what I'm saying? It's messy, messy, messy. And he didn't want to mention his name, because he knows by mentioning his name, he might help him get a couple thousand new subscribers every time he's mentioned, because Cory Holcomb has a huge platform. But that's why he was reluctant to say it, just so you know. But let's get back to this interesting conversation. All right, y'all hit the #1 button when you can hear it clearly.
Say, oh, Cory said it's okay for me to talk to his lawyer. Now, ever since I said what I said about the lead attorney, I haven't seen him say anything back. Mm-hmm. And it is my opinion, the reason he didn't say anything back, because I didn't lie on him. Mm. I did not give him permission to talk to my attorney about nothing. And he said I did. All
right, so let me explain something to you about psychology. And of course, I'm not a psychologist, but I've examined enough people. Oftentimes, people are limited by their own understanding. What would I do in that situation? Well, if I was wrong, I'm not going to say anything about it, because, I'm wrong. And you begin to make assumptions about people. And see, it's almost like you're limited by your own understanding. You're unable to put yourself in the perspective of another person. When you look at the lead attorney, to you, he's a regular guy, right? He's a cool guy, right? But he's a trained litigator. He's been practicing law almost a quarter of a century in a major American city. And, as far as being a tactician, understanding words, the said, the unsaid, there's a various number of reasons why an attorney may choose silence. Okay, as I've told you guys before, I fight quiet wars. You know, I have a dark practice. Somebody type dark practice in the chat room. I have a dark practice that I don't advertise. Now, as far as anyone is concerned, I'm a personal injury lawyer. If you've been involved in a car accident, give me a call, 713-229-0770. But then there are people who speak to me. And again, I have a dark practice, and I handle special needs and special issues for special people. You know, I'm the attorney that attorneys call when problems need to get resolved quietly. And I oftentimes am able to make things like that go away. I had an instance where a Hispanic gentleman from about 10 or 15 years ago, he had his paramour was married to a real estate agent, and she was a real estate agent. And and there was a legal dispute that arose. And so we had to make that legal dispute go away without actually having to, you know, expose that issue that, you know, my client was cheating with this other man's wife, and we didn't want my client's wife to find out. So, you know, I'm just saying, dark practice, you know, and then there's other things. Sometimes people have issues with administrative matters, and we deal with that quietly. It's not, when I say dark practice, I don't mean like I'm out here doing warlock stuff. I mean things that need to be handled quietly outside the public view, okay? And so, you know, but I charge a lot for that, you know, I charge a lot. You don't want that, you know. When you call me, you've been involved in a car accident, you know, you don't get paid. I don't get paid until you get paid. But the dark practice, you got to pay up front. And usually I charge anywhere from $750 an hour to $1,000 an hour, okay? But anyway, let's get back to this mess. But you see how he's looking at him? Woo, man, boy, let's keep listening.
I believe he saw that and knows that to be true, which is why he isn't going all out his way to act like Cory Holcomb is not the man that he say he is.
All right, so Cory Holcomb is saying that he didn't give me permission to talk to his attorney. I said, guys, on my last stream that I was supposed to have an interview with his attorney cleared it, and then his attorney backed out. Now
look, I need you to understand, I find lead attorney to be a very mild person, and he's an attorney, so he's going to conduct himself, he's going to comport himself, you know, in a very dignified manner, okay? And so some of the things he says on this, you guys got to go check it out for yourself. I mean, it's one thing for Cory Holcomb and O'Shea to be fighting it out on the internet, but when you get lead attorney, you know, he's an attorney, I'm an attorney, he's a black man, I'm a black man, we're both black attorneys. It's like, okay, maybe I should chime in on this. Maybe this is important. You know, again, my primary use of my broadcast opportunities here is as an advocate for black men. And that doesn't limit it to being an advocate for just black men like, what was a young brother? Y'all called him Ninja Turtle, right? Aaron Sloan, the plumber, Aaron the plumber. It doesn't just mean I'm going to step up and try to defend folks like that who don't have a voice, or maybe try to put some parameters around what's going on, you know, in society, but also situations like this. It's getting messy. Okay, let's hit the #1 button.
Cory is saying, no, that's all a lie. He's saying that he never gave me permission to talk to that man, and Cory has been extremely disrespectful towards me. And because I have not responded to the disrespect, Cory takes that as an admission that he's right and I'm wrong.
Okay, again, remember what I said. People are limited by their own understanding. Typically, if somebody's extremely disrespectful to you, like you heard lead attorney say, most people are going to respond in kind. But because lead attorney didn't respond, Cory Holcomb, based on his own understanding, assumed that, oh, I must be right, because if somebody talk to me like that, I'm going to respond. And again, that's why the Bible says, lean not to your own understanding, because you're going to make some mistakes. Y'all get those likes up, by the way. My moderators are telling me to tell y'all to get the likes up. But and so that's a mistake. That is just simply a tactical error on behalf of Cory's part. You know, typically if somebody's leaving you alone, you should probably let it go. But let's keep listening.
I did not give him permission to talk to my attorney about nothing. And he said I did. And I believe that he saw that and knows that to be true, which is why he isn't going all out his way to act like Cory Holcomb is not the man that he say he is. That's what I believe. I believe he has.
That's what he believes. Now, I think Cory is trying to use the wording "I believe" because in hopes of possibly mitigating or heading off any future lawsuits that could happen. I guess he's using that as an equivalent to alleged or possible, you know, but that's not going to help. That's not going to help. I'm just saying. Go ahead.
Some type of moral strand inside of him that knows I wasn't lying on him. I didn't give nobody permission to do nothing.
All right.
Yeah. All right. So, you know, here's the thing. You basically said that, keep in mind, the lead attorney is an attorney. Okay. And so at this point, it's about to get smoking hot. All right. I'm just going to say, in lawyer terms, you know, I'm hearing curse words. I'm hearing it's going down. Okay. This is
Ways to look at this situation.
I want you to listen.
All right, Cory, there are.
He said, all right, you hear that? This is him giving a closing statement to the jury. Okay, I want you to listen very carefully. It's a lot of words here that would otherwise be considered profanity if there were lawyers listening. Okay, but you know, he's not going to use any. Let's listen.
All right, Cory, there are two competing ways to look at this situation. The first way to look at it is that you are just a liar. You are lying. You lied about me in the past, and you are continuing to lie about me. Now, this is apart from all the disrespect.
When a lawyer says you're lying, like we know, we can't just call people liars. You can barely call people liars. You can get sanctioned for calling a person a liar on documents. Judges will sink harshly. Get that language gets stricken sometimes. And so for him to come out on the internet and say, yeah, you lying. Ooh-wee, that's smoking hot. Y'all hit the number one button. Somebody type messy in the chat room. Messy.
And all the jokes. I'm talking about straight lying. That's the first way to look at this. Now, the second way to look at it is that you are not lying and that you have chosen a bootleg attorney to represent you.
Now, see that right there. That's why I had to say, I probably need to talk about this a little bit. Okay, now I like the way lead attorney phrased it. He said, there's two ways to look at this. You're a liar, you're lying. And then he said, and then there's another way to look at it. So he didn't actually say Cory was lying. Okay, he said there's a way to look at it and it would be that you're lying. So, you know, there's plausible deniability. I didn't call him a liar. I said this is a way of looking at it. I like that. That was good stuff. Good stuff, lead attorney. Good stuff. Real smooth. But then he said the other way to look at it is that you have a bootleg attorney. Did y'all hear that? Bootleg attorney? And the lead attorney is going to tell you, we hardly ever speak ill of each other in the public as far as attorneys. We typically don't do that. Okay. And so the fact that he would do that, it tells you a lot. It tells you a lot. It tells you that the lead attorney has come out swinging and he's going to defend his reputation. And the truth is, I can't blame him for doing that. You know, let's hit the number one button.
A bootleg attorney to represent you. Now, how do I know that these are the only two ways to look at this situation? Well, I'm about to explain it to you right now. But I do want to say one thing first. You were saying that you were so disrespectful to me and I didn't respond. And you're saying, well, since I didn't respond, that shows that I knew that you were the man that you claimed to be. Now,
yeah, again. So Cory Holcomb leaned to his own understanding. How would he respond if somebody was speaking about him negatively? And of course, Cory Holcomb is saying really horrible things about the lead attorney and, you know, disparaging his name. And, you know, then that's just, most people are not going to sit around and let you do that. Normal people, you know, normal, untrained non-lawyer. Somebody type non-lawyer in the chat room. Matter of fact, we refer to, in law school, we typically refer to people who are not licensed attorneys as non-lawyers. You are the other. In other words, you're just bathing in ignorance. You don't actually know how the world truly works. And, we hold your hand and try to get you through. All right. So, he's treating him like a non-lawyer because he's thinking like a non-lawyer. And now his lawyer is supposed to know better. But nevertheless, here we go.
Cory, you are making a mistake on this. I didn't respond, but for a very different reason. I didn't respond to you, Cory. I didn't respond to your disrespect because I didn't want to embarrass you. On one of your last shows, you brought up this attorney that you had retained, this gentleman named Derek. Now, this is an attorney.
He called the man name. He called the man by his name. Now, I've taken the opportunity to look up the man, okay? He called him by name. Basically, that other way of looking at it, that you got a bootleg attorney, and then you call them by name, people will find out. This is the internet. People can find out who you are from a TikTok video. They know your job, where you live, who you're married to, how much money you made. And so there are people who probably know now who this gentleman is. And here's the cold part about it. In the Leeds video, he actually put the gentleman's face up along with an email, that clearly states the man's name, at least partially. And if you look a little further, you will see where the gentleman is located and all this different stuff. So again, this is why I was compelled to say, I'm like, maybe I should chime in on this and throw some water on this fire. And that's why I came in. I'm going to try to throw some water on this fire because, at the end of the day, I see Cory is an entertainer and he's coming from, and you're crossing the line between comedy and courtrooms, and it's going to this is going to get worse. And I know you all enjoy it. I know you all enjoy it. I know you like the mess. I know you do. I know YouTube likes the mess, but at the end of the day, these are all black men. We have professional black men here. And, this is why I decided to put a fire on this thing. Shout out to GA Peach Session. I appreciate you. Let's keep it pushing.
That you chose, that you selected, that you put your trust in to represent you in whatever claims that you may have. The attorney on your show said that he's been practicing for 14 or 15 years, and that's good. I can tell you that I've been an attorney for close to 25 years, and I am intimately aware of the relationship and the responsibilities that we have as attorneys towards our clients. You keep disrespecting me, and you keep saying that I'm lying about you giving me permission to talk to your attorney. So we're going to see who's lying right now.
We about to prove the case up. He's about to prove the case. Okay, so you see, this is the back and forth. And of course, I've chopped this video up. It's true.
I got to make an example out of this.
I've chopped the video up because I didn't want, I want you all to go check the videos out on their page. And of course, I'm doing this because I want you guys to just kind of understand what's going on. But now, Lead commences to show the evidence that he has. And, I assume Cory Holcomb was positioning himself to, I'm assuming maybe you're alleging this man lied on you. You're saying a lawyer lied on, you never gave permission to your attorney or whatever. I mean, the lead attorney lays it out on his own. But, remember, you're attacking this man's reputation. You're attacking this professional man, this lawyer's reputation, and we live and die by a reputation. I'm just going to point out that you can't do that, and I think I've established that on my page that, if you force me to have to defend my reputation, I will, and it's unfortunate that YouTubers, they don't realize that, hey, yeah, we're lawyers. We're not, you might think of us, oh, he's just a regular black dude. I can underestimate him. No, there's power. I can reach out and touch you with this lawsuit, that I'm connected. Of course, after battling with people, in the legal realm for decades. You know, you're going to learn some things. You're going to learn how to operate in the system. But let's go ahead and let lead attorney finish up his presentation. He said, I hit up. Here we go. Somebody type hit up.
Your attorney.
Fair use.
Your attorney gets back to me. What does he say? Let's look down here. He says, good day, counselor, and great hearing from you. Let me check with Cory and I will follow up with you. See, this is exactly what I was talking about. Good attorneys have to check with the clients.
Somebody type good attorneys in the chat room.
Your attorney can't just agree to be on my show without talking to you to appear on my show. He has to clear it with you. Also, let me say that your attorney can't clear this interview with Craig. He can't clear it with Darlene. Both of them are integral parts to your show. They're very important people, but...
So in other words, no subordinate can clear this. No agent can clear this. You have to clear this. And so he's establishing that either you cleared it or your attorney didn't do what he was supposed to do.
Your attorney represents you and you alone. So the only person that can give him permission to talk to me is you. So he says right here, he says, let me check with Cory and I will follow up with you. But Cory, what do you think?
I mean, lead attorney, you got the man's name all out there. The public is going to see the man's name. Lead, well, you got the brother's name out. You didn't even, oh man. Everybody knows. Now everybody's going to know this man's name. This whole law school class is gonna look at him like, oh, I'm saying, that's cold-blooded, brother. It's cold-blooded. Damn. Somebody type, damn, in the chat room. Damn. Damn. How you gonna lay this down? You know, this little young lawyer, he's a little young. Anyway, let's go.
Think he responds? What do you think he says to me? Let's scroll down and take a look. He says he's going to check with you. And then a day later, he says, I am cleared to speak with you. That means he checked with you, checked with Cory, and now he's cleared to speak with me. So now, Cory, who is the liar? It's
Damn. Okay, y'all ready? Okay, finish. Go ahead, lead. Finish.
either you or it's either your attorney.
Damn. Now, I see the rage, okay? I see the rage, okay? I want y'all to go check his broadcast out. You can see it for yourself. Shout out to Eddie B. We gonna come on back over here to the peaceful Jesus broadcast over here. We gonna let that rage go. Everybody woosah. Okay, he went off. He went off, okay? We're not going to do that over here. We are not stressful people over here. We're going to have a nice, calm conversation about the law. We're going to try to get rid of all this animosity. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Praise God. Okay, we're going to try to get rid of it. But I saw this. Tonight was white people night. Okay, I was going to talk about white privilege and the things that I typically enjoy talking about. You know, I was on the Arabs the other night. Okay. And the night before, we talked about the transatlantic slave trade. And, but I felt like, I might need to intercede. I might need to come on down here and see if we can sort this matter out like some kind of Texas Ranger in the middle of a riot. Okay, I just calm down. Okay, let's see if we can get everybody to calm down. All right, somebody type calm down in the chat room. Let's try to calm this down because it's going left. It's getting bad. It's getting real bad. But anyway, I guess the first situation we'll talk about is O'Shea Duke Jackson. All right. And the situation between 5150, Cory Holcomb and O'Shea Duke Jackson and others it's been brewing for several weeks now. Okay. And I only commented once during the initial dust up between Cory Holcomb and Anton Daniels, but now I want to address something more serious, and that's Cory Holcomb's threat to sue O'Shea Duke Jackson for defamation. Shout out to Red Sigma. Now, let's start here. If somebody believes they've been defamed, they absolutely have the right to file a lawsuit. That's not controversial. We know that. The issue isn't whether someone can say, I'm going to sue, okay? The issue is whether they can actually sue and whether the court would even have jurisdiction to hear the case. Now, I want you to listen to me. Now, I'm going to go fast, but I'm going to go slow, but it might go over some of y'all's heads. See, there's a big difference between threatening litigation and having a legally viable claim that survives procedural scrutiny. Here's the problem. Okay, somebody type problem in the chat room. Here's the problem. Okay, O'Shea Duke Jackson has been living in Africa. I think he lives in Uganda, right? He's been living in Uganda for almost, 5-10 years, something like that. So O'Shea no longer maintains a residence or domicile in the United States. While he is an American citizen, originally from California, and he tells us that all the time, and I'm only using information that's public. If he's domiciled abroad and not domiciled in the U.S. or a state in the U.S., that creates a serious issue for federal diversity jurisdiction, which would need to be the jurisdiction necessary to bring forth a defamation lawsuit. Now, I'm going to throw some numbers at you all. It's called, it's one of the first things you learn, okay? Under 28 U.S.C. subsection 1332, for a federal court to exercise diversity jurisdiction, okay, there must be both an amount in controversy exceeding $75,000. In other words, the thing you're fighting about has caused you at least $75,001. Okay, not 69, not 74,999.99. It has to exceed $75,000. And the other thing is diversity of citizenship between the parties. Now, roll with me on this. Diversity jurisdiction, it applies to disputes between citizens of a state and citizens or subjects of a foreign state. However, I want you to listen to me. Federal courts don't have jurisdiction over cases involving other aliens, okay? Courts have repeatedly held that diversity jurisdiction does not extend to suits solely between foreign citizens, even where permanent resident status is involved. So what that means is if a guy from Mexico moves to Texas and he sues a guy from Germany, right, the federal court can't maintain that lawsuit because there's no diversity. Now, if they both live in Texas, you probably have to sue in state court. All right, now here's the thing. There's a case called Bastos versus Kelowna, okay, flight craft. And there's another case called Gardner versus Kelowna flight craft. And it makes it clear that Article 3 of the United States Constitution does not permit federal courts to hear cases involving only alien parties. And Congress can't expand jurisdiction beyond those constitutional limits. And now here's where it gets complicated, okay? If O'Shea is considered domiciled abroad and not domiciled in any U.S. state, courts have described individuals in that posture as effectively stateless. Somebody type stateless in the chat room, okay? They are stateless for the purposes of diversity jurisdiction. So a U.S. citizen domiciled abroad isn't considered a citizen of any state under the required subsection 1332. And that means that diversity jurisdiction fails because the statute requires citizenship of a state, okay? So if neither party qualifies properly under the statute, the federal courts lack jurisdiction. We know that Cory Holcomb is domiciled in California, but, O'Shea Duke Jackson is domiciled in Uganda somewhere. You understand what I'm saying? So anyway, subject matter jurisdiction isn't optional. You got to have it, okay? It can't be waived. It can't be, and here's the thing, the objection to subject matter jurisdiction, it could be raised at any time. So if Cory were to file suit in federal court, the judge would immediately examine whether jurisdiction exists, and if jurisdiction is lacking, then the case will be dismissed. Even if Cory could serve O'Shea Duke Jackson in Uganda, which itself presents logistical challenges under international service rules like the Hague Service Convention and service alone, you got to understand that's not going to create jurisdiction. We see that happening all the time. Okay, if all you needed was service to get jurisdiction over somebody, then every woman who has a child would file a lawsuit in California and serve the child's father there because they get more money in California. Okay, that California court you can serve, but you don't have jurisdiction. I mean, there's more money over there. I mean, we could just do something called forum shopping. Okay, now if O'Shea hires counsel after he's served and files a motion to dismiss for lack of subject matter jurisdiction, the court would have to address that. Now, even hypothetically, if service were accomplished, and I'm not saying, I mean, they could roll up, somebody could pull up on O'Shea with a zebra and just serve him, right? Let's say they were able to serve him, whether it be personal in Uganda or some court-approved alternative method, because recently we've allowed service via email. That core issue remains whether proper diversity of citizenship under 1332 is there. And a federal court, if it's not, the court can't even hear the case. You understand what I'm saying? It's shout out to CDS. So, but yeah, right. O'Shea is the smartest person on the internet right now. He's the smartest internet. He can say what the hell he want to say. O'Shea can cuss you out, talk about your mama, call you a liar to your face. There's nothing you can do about it. Okay? Nothing you can do. O'Shea has won the litigation game against everybody. All right? Now, I'm going to break this down a little bit more. But anyway, like I'm saying, and if federal jurisdiction fails, Cory would then have to try to consider state court, but and some sort of international enforcement issues are going to arise because, it gets real complicated. The state doesn't have jurisdiction. Which state you going to sue them from? California doesn't have any jurisdiction. They don't have long-arm jurisdiction to serve anybody. That's not how that works. You see? Now, I want to be careful because the jurisdictional analysis, it depends heavily on the precise facts of O'Shea's citizenship and domicile. Okay, I'm assuming he lives in Uganda and he's been there. Okay, he's basically, that's his residence. Okay, but the broader legal principle is clear. Federal courts are courts of limited jurisdiction. Somebody type limited jurisdiction in the chat room. Okay, they can't hear cases simply because someone says they want to sue you. They must have constitutional and statutory authority to do so. And so if this conversation has occurred between Cory Holcomb and his lawyer, any competent attorney should be explaining these jurisdictional hurdles. And threatening to sue somebody on a live stream is very different from filing a complaint that survives a Rule 12b1 motion to dismiss and for lack of subject matter jurisdiction. And you might end up getting sanctioned, which means you would end up having to pay O'Shea Duke Jackson's attorney's fees, and your lawyer might get reprimanded by a federal judge, and nobody wants that. Okay? And at the end of the day, this dispute, it makes for compelling YouTube because you all are messy, right? Y'all are messy, but litigation is governed by strict constitutional and statutory boundaries. And before anyone talks about making an example out of someone in court, the first question that must be answered is, does the court even have the power to hear the case? Now, let's say hypothetically, let me say this in plain English. Let's say O'Shea flies back to the United States to visit some family in California, Atlanta, New York, or wherever, right, for whatever reason. And let's say Cory finds out and he tries to have him served, right, while he's physically here. I got him, right? And a lot of people think that if I can just physically hand someone a lawsuit, papers inside the United States, that automatically means the court has power over them. And that's not how it works. Okay, because see, there are two separate legal principles involved. Okay, you have something called personal jurisdiction, and then you have something called subject matter jurisdiction. And I'll try to explain that to you in layman's terms because I know it's a lot of non-lawyers in here. Somebody type non-lawyer. I know you non-lawyers don't know what is he talking about. Sounds fancy, but what is he talking about? So personal jurisdiction means the court has power over the person. Okay, that's what that means. The court has power over the person. Subject matter jurisdiction, okay, what that means is subject matter jurisdiction means the court has power to hear the type of case in the first place. And see, you can't solve the first problem and still lose the second. You can solve the first problem and still lose on the second. If Cory tries to file in federal court using diversity jurisdiction, the rules are found in 28 U.S.C. 1332. And the law says two things, okay? The amount in controversy must be over $75,000. We talked about that. And the lawsuit must be between two citizens of a state and someone from another state or country. Here's the problem. If O'Shea is a U.S. citizen who lives permanently in Uganda and is not legally domiciled in any U.S. state, then under federal law, he's not considered a citizen of the state. And courts have repeatedly said that a U.S. citizen living abroad is basically stateless for diversity purposes. And if you're stateless and diversity jurisdiction fails under 1332. And so what that means is O'Shea is, if he comes home to visit, he's physically served, and let's say he goes to hang out in Georgia. Let's say O'Shea wants to, whatever, you want to go hang out in Georgia and have a blast, and hang out with some of those pretty ladies over there, and he gets served. All right, the court's going to look at that and say, well, is he legally domiciled here? Not whether he's here temporarily hanging out, okay? And domicile is about where you permanently live and intend to remain. A vacation or a short visit doesn't change that. And see, this is exactly what happened with Russell Simmons. You guys remember Russell Simmons? Russell Simmons had went off to live in Bali, okay? It's somewhere in Indonesia. He went off to live in Indonesia. And he had made it back to California. Somebody said Magic City. I said, O'Shea going to Georgia to hang out at Magic City. Y'all messy, man. It's hard to deal with y'all. Y'all are so messy. It's just difficult. I'm trying to be professional out here. I'm trying to call people Mr. and yes, sir. And I'm trying to be professional, okay? And you all are down. Y'all are messy. You are messy people here, okay? You are the internet, all right? But I'm gonna continue being above the fray, okay? Because I'm not gonna let you all bring me down into the gutter with you all, period. Not gonna happen, okay? Now, let's get back to it. So Russell Simmons, he decided he was gonna go to a yoga studio in California, and the lady who was trying to sue him found out, okay? And so, the court determined that, Russell Simmons, yeah, you served him in California, but he doesn't live in California anymore. He's domiciled in Indonesia, and the court dismissed the case for lack of subject matter jurisdiction because he was not domiciled in the U.S. state anymore. That's what a good lawyer does. His lawyer said, hey, Russell, these Me Too lawsuits are headed your way. You better move. And what did Russell do? Russell said, all right, let me go. He packed up all his stuff, and he moved to Indonesia, and we have not seen Russell Simmons since, have we? We've seen him on a couple of TikTok videos, stretching and doing yoga, but we have not seen him domicile. He packed up all his things and left the country in anticipation of these Me Too lawsuits, right? That's what a good lawyer will tell you. You know what, Russ? Look, man, they got Cosby, they got Weinstein, we got some people eyeing you. Might be a good time to take that permanent move to Bali. Go out there and do some stretching, work those hamstrings, get a little bit of that, bring some shea butter with you, get those kneecaps warmed up. And that way you can keep your money and not have to get drug in and out of court, mess up your royalties for your money, because nobody wants to get sued, especially entertainers. Once you get sued, you get blackballed. People take you, Cosby should have moved to Bali. That's what him and Camille should have left and moved to Bali. Pick a state. They could have went anywhere. They could have moved to South Africa. Man, a lot of white girls in Ukraine. He could have moved to Ukraine, got him some Coke and Pepsi or whatever, and he'd been fine. But he didn't. He stayed here, tried to tough it out, and ended up getting sued and went to jail for 3 years. Not Russell, not old hot boy Russell Simmons. He got up out of here. He went to Bali. He's out there with yoga pants on. I heard he has a lifetime unlimited plan with Lululemon. He is doing it big, okay? Smart move. Saved his money, saved a lot of stress, living in paradise, all right? And so that's the same situation with O'Shea Duke Jackson, okay? So even if someone was to catch O'Shea in California visiting, right, doing something dignified in California, not like you people said, O'Shea is not in Georgia going to what club? Magic City. That's horrible to say that about that brother. All right, he's a professional. I told you, he's a highly educated man. You all are just disrespectful to the brothers. Nevertheless, let's say O'Shea goes to California and they try to serve him. Serving him doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't fix the jurisdictional problem. Federal courts must have what's called subject matter jurisdiction. If they don't, the case gets dismissed. Okay? Now, could Cory try to sue in state court? Maybe. Maybe you could catch him and sue him somewhere else, but then you run into the other issues. First of all, you got long-arm statutes enforcing the judgments overseas. How do you do that? How do you actually collect money from someone who lives abroad? International litigation is complicated and expensive. Most of you all don't even know a lawyer in Uganda. Okay? Hell, some of you all don't even know a lawyer in Mexico. All right? And so the key takeaway is simple. Under 28 U.S.C. 1332, a U.S. citizen domiciled abroad is not considered a citizen of any state for the purposes for diversity purposes. And if there's no proper citizenship, then federal courts don't have subject matter jurisdiction. So the bottom line is this: just because you physically find someone in the United States doesn't automatically mean you can sue them in federal court. And domicile controls, you see? And so unless O'Shea unless he comes back here and reestablishes, he moves to Montana, opens a ranch, starts doing, cattle herding or something like that and stays there for, I think the limit is indefinitely, most people say a year and a day, then jurisdiction is going to be a problem, okay? And see, that's the difference between talking tough online and actually filing a lawsuit. Courts don't run on threats, they run on jurisdiction. Now, let's say purely, right? Let's say Cory does find a lawyer in Uganda, okay? Let's say he hops on WhatsApp and he finds a lawyer in Uganda. Now, off rip, okay? That he said, I can't sue him here, fine. If I can't sue him here in the USA, I'll go to O'Shea Duke Jackson and sue him in Uganda because he lied on me on the internet. And that sounds bold. It's a bold theory, but litigation isn't theory. Okay, it's procedure, it's treaties, it's enforceability, it's cost, it's practicability. I don't even know if they have defamation laws in Uganda. I don't even know, okay? But, here's the first major issue: international enforcement of a judgment. The United States does not have a bilateral treaty with Uganda that requires mutual recognition of enforcement of civil monetary judgments. And so the U.S. isn't part of a broad multilateral treatment guaranteeing automatic enforcement of money judgments worldwide. Can you imagine what would happen? Shout out to Eddie B. Can you imagine what would happen if judgments obtained in Uganda could be enforced against American citizens? What do you think would happen? Well, what do you think would happen if people in Uganda, or vice versa, people could come from Uganda and sue people in Uganda and then bring that judgment? Hello, Judge, how are you? He owes me $12 million. I have sued Patrick Swayze's estate under Uganda. That's why we can't recognize those monetary judgments from everywhere. You understand what I'm saying? So it's a practical matter. It's a way to protect you from people, foreigners, coming here suing people with judgments ginned up in their own countries. Okay, so let's say, so that's why we don't have that. And here's the thing: while countries often do recognize foreign judgments, okay, under principles of comity, that process is discretionary and is governed by each nation's domestic law. Uganda isn't a party to any comprehensive treaty with the United States that requires some sort of reciprocal enforcement of civil money judgments. And I've explained to you that's a trap. Okay, y'all all would be broke. Every time you put a mean comment under some Ugandan person's comment section, they filing lawsuits against you and then they mailing those lawsuits into your hometown. That's not how that works. We don't want that. That's bad policy, okay? But again, what this means is even if Cory somehow obtained a judgment in Uganda, right? If he somehow obtained a judgment in Uganda against O'Shea, that judgment is probably going to die there, because O'Shea's money is probably somewhere else. I'm sure he's not keeping his money in Ugandan banks. And then vice versa. If Cory somehow obtained a U.S. judgment and tried to enforce it in Uganda, that would require a whole separate proceeding in Uganda. Same thing with the United States. And the Ugandan courts would apply their own standards. They would review jurisdiction, fairness, public policy, and procedural compliance, in other words, due process, before even deciding whether to recognize a judgment. And so this isn't automatic. It's expensive. It's time consuming, okay? Again, now let's flip the script and say Cory attempts to file suit directly in Uganda. That means hiring a Ugandan counsel. That means navigating the Ugandan procedural law. That means complying with Ugandan evidentiary standards. That means litigating in a foreign legal system with different rules and potentially different defamation standards and different damages frameworks. Lying on somebody in Uganda might be worth $50 in a goat. You see what I'm saying? I mean, so what? What did he do? What did he do? He did not do anything to you. What? Why are you here? Why are you here? He said what to you? You lie on what? You probably lied today. Okay. I mean, in the jury, I don't even. It was wasting time. Okay. So what do you expect of recovery? Okay, versus the cost of litigation. Your international litigation is extraordinarily expensive. Filing fees, foreign counsel travel, depositions, document translation. Then you're looking at the fact potential appeals, and this can easily cost tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that's before you even reach the issue of collectability. And if defendants' assets are structured or held in ways that are difficult to reach, or if there's jurisdictional protections in place, you may win on paper and lose on practice. Hell, once the lawsuit gets popping, O'Shea could just move. He could move to another African country. And then you got to start all over again and hire a new lawyer. You see? And so this is what I mean when I say sometimes clients book fights the lawyers can't win. Okay, clients do this all the time. I'm going to get my lawyer. I'm going to sue. But here's the reality. Your lawyer isn't just your lawyer. He's a professional with multiple clients. He has a license to practice law. He has a reputation. He has ethical obligations. And when high-profile clients like a Cory Holcomb publicly threaten litigation repeatedly by name, right, that means that their attorney becomes intertwined with those public statements. And any seasoned litigator will tell you one of the first rules of serious litigation strategy is silence. If you're going to litigate, stop talking. You don't need to preview your claims in public. You don't need to threaten daily. You don't telegraph your strategy. You don't give the opposing party time to prepare defenses. You don't litigate on YouTube before filing a lawsuit in court. You file first, and then you control the narrative through structured communication. If necessary, you issue a carefully worded press release, but you don't tip your hand. And so when you publicly threaten a lawsuit repeatedly and then fail to follow through, it creates the perception that you either, number one, don't have a viable claim, or number two, you don't understand the procedural hurdles involved. And unfortunately, when the perception forms, it reflects not just on the client, but on the lawyer. And the client is expected not to know these procedural nuances, but the lawyer is expected to know better. So when we step back and we look at this realistically, suing O'Shea Duke Jackson, whether in the United States or in Uganda, it presents a serious jurisdictional enforcement and financial problems or obstacles. It isn't impossible in theory, but in practice, it's extraordinary. It's complicated and it's potentially cost prohibitive. And at some point, the legal strategies got to shift from emotional reaction to procedural feasibility. Litigation isn't a live stream. This is not content. It's not performance. It's jurisdiction. Venue is service. It's enforceability. It's cost-benefit analysis. It's long-term consequences. And, the difference between saying you're going to sue and actually being in a position to win, two different things. Now, let me say something. Man. Some of you all are asking, how do you know all this stuff? Okay, can we have a heart-to-heart, right? And I want y'all to make sure y'all go tell O'Shea, I put this up. I typically don't tag people, but you can tell them, Here's my disclaimer, okay? Over the years, I've spoken to O'Shea Duke Jackson off and on numerous times, many unrelated matters, nothing about this right here, okay? And I like O'Shea Duke Jackson, I do. I like O'Shea. I never met him in person, but even before I became an active podcast on YouTube, I liked his family-friendly content. I like when he raises his voice. Yeah, I like that. That's funny, right? And my kids liked it. And so my sons and I used to listen to him while we would be lifting weights. He'd always comment on things. I think he's funny and is family friendly, and I like that. I truly think he's a talented black man. I have great respect for his work. He and I are different. We have different styles, clearly, but I respect his work. And the irony over the years that I'm going to tell you something that I've never revealed in public. The irony is that different people at different times have asked me to sue O'Shea Duke Jackson, and I've always declined. You see, and it's not because I couldn't, because even though I'm telling you what most lawyers will say, I could figure out a way to sue him if I was doing it, but I'm not. I've always declined, okay? And I've declined not because I couldn't, because I choose not to. You understand? And as a lawyer, I have a right to sue someone, and I also have a right to not sue someone. In other words, Jerry Spence, who's a famous attorney, one of the most famous trial lawyers in America, in American history. I read he recently passed away a couple of years ago. I read his book, and he said, you have the right to pick and choose your clients, and you don't have to take every client. It's the reason I don't practice criminal law, because I saw my daddy take clients that I would never take, people allegedly who committed horrible crimes, and I just didn't want to get involved in that. And the thing is, sometimes litigation isn't about whether you can bring a claim, it's about whether you should. And in this case, I simply didn't want to. I like O'Shea. I think he's good for YouTube. I think he's great for Black YouTube. And suing him would be something I would personally find distasteful. And let me say this clearly. O'Shea Duke Jackson was the only person who stood up when Kevin Samuels passed away. You see, Kevin Samuels, when he passed away, the people, his mom and his sister, they didn't really have any access to his money. They didn't. You had all these people talking bad about Kevin. And the last thing I wanted to see happen was for people to be able to confirm, oh, yeah, we said he didn't have any money. Clearly, the man died a millionaire, but you don't get access to that money immediately, okay? And so, I hate to even say, O'Shea and I covered the funeral expenses. You understand what I'm saying? Nobody else stepped up financially. Not that large crowd at the funeral, not the loud voices online. It was me and O'Shea Duke Jackson. We made sure Kevin was laid to rest properly, and his mother and daughter had proper attire they needed for the service. You understand? He and I paid for the attorney. You understand? Now, of course, they paid us back for that sort of stuff, but it was me and O'Shea Duke Jackson. We were the ones that made sure the man got laid to rest properly. His mother and his daughter had proper attire they needed. Me and my wife went down to the Galleria Mall and purchased the clothes that they wore at the funeral. At least we sent them some clothes. You understand what I'm saying? And the great thing about O'Shea, man, I didn't have to beg him. I asked him one time. You see, I let him know what's going on. I asked him one time. And he got the money to me. So in my opinion, he's a stand-up guy. And I know O'Shea is all fun and laughs. I get that. But he's a stand-up guy. And I don't take actions against stand-up guys lightly. And so when I speak on this issue, understand it's not coming from hostility. It's coming from a legal analysis and personal integrity. And hopefully this ends the back and forth and the rhetoric. And hopefully Cory Holcomb's lawyer has a serious conversation with his client about strategy and discipline and understanding the difference between content and court. Okay? Now, we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to be right back, and I'm going to give you my take on the situation related to the lead attorney. I'm going to break it down for you. You guys enjoying what I'm doing, hit the #1 button. As you can imagine, this is going to be the broadcast for the day, so we'll get back to our normal stuff another day. But as it is right now, I'll be right back shortly. You guys hit the #1 button. Let me know you can hear me clearly. Feel free to tag your friends on this. And again, this is kind of like a public service announcement. That's why I'm not asking anybody for any super chats or cash apps, anything. I just really want to kind of see this thing kind of subside, because it's been going on for a couple of weeks and it's only escalating. And I don't think that's good for YouTube, Black YouTube, us in general. And, that's just kind of like my take on it. But like I said, I'll be back in a minute. You guys hit the #1 button. And
In this Spurling podcast, click your mouse pad. Yeah, we out back. Hit the like, hit subscribe. Don't just hate watch, cause we outside. Let them hate watch, go and play pop. We just lay back. He don't play that. We don't play back. We don't play back. We go way back. Black men, yeah, we earn something. Tune in, gotta learn something. Uncle D podcast, bump it. Likes up, hit the sub button. Black men, yeah, we earn something. Tune in, gotta learn something. Uncle D podcast, bump it. Likes up, hit the sub button. This is Dennis Spurling podcast. Don't just hate watch, hit subscribe and let them know we outside. Don't hold hate, donate. Super chat, cash app. Put something in the collection plate. Church.
I want y'all to make sure y'all hit the #1 button. And we're going to kind of get back to what we like to do over here, man. I need y'all to check in at a certain point when it's time to check in. I need to checking in to start happening again. We got to go ahead and get this algorithm pumping.
All right, guys. So Cory Holcomb is about to make an example out of me.
I said something against this guy that came up to our show. His name, I'm going to take the chance and say
Fair
his name.
use.
His name was the lead attorney. I said something about him because I saw him say, oh, Cory said it's okay for me to talk to his lawyer. Now, ever since I said what I said about the lead attorney, I haven't seen him say anything back. And it is my opinion, the reason he didn't say anything back, because I didn't lie on him. I did not give him permission to talk to my attorney about nothing. And he said I did. And I believe he saw that and knows that to be true, which is why he isn't going all out his way to act like Cory Holcomb is not the man that he say he is.
All right, so Cory Holcomb is saying that he didn't give me permission to talk to his attorney. I said, guys, on my last stream that I was supposed to have an interview with his attorney. His attorney cleared it, and then his attorney backed out. Now Cory is saying, no, that's all a lie. He's saying that he never gave me permission to talk to that man, and Cory has been extremely disrespectful towards me. And because I have not responded to the disrespect, Cory takes that as an admission that he's right and I'm wrong.
I did not give him permission to talk to my attorney about nothing, and he said I did. And I believe he saw that and knows that to be true, which is why he isn't going all out his way to act like Cory Holcomb is not the man that he say he is. That's what I believe. I believe he has some type of moral strand inside of him that knows I wasn't lying on him. I didn't give nobody permission to do nothing.
All right.
So like I said, fair use. So that's the issue at hand. And I want to kind of address this because to me, it's very serious. It's a very, very serious matter. And I want you all to understand how serious it is. And hopefully you will. But before we go any further, did you learn something today? Me talking about the situation with O'Shea. Did you figure it? Were you all able to figure it out that O'Shea is pretty much untouchable out here in these these YouTube streets, being the fact that he's in you. Did that make sense? Was it clear? I want to make sure you guys understand that. And shout out to everybody who's contributing to the super chat, and shout out to my new members. Great to have you here. I'm going to do this. I'm marching towards 100,000 subscribers. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But again, let's get back to it. So I want to address this issue. Cory Holcomb went in on his broadcast, and he basically called the lead attorney a liar. And that's for an attorney, that's not a small accusation. When you go on a public platform and you call a licensed attorney a liar, you're not just talking trash. You're attacking the core of that person's career. A lawyer's job depends on credibility. You see, he's an officer of the court. The judges have to trust him. Clients have to trust them. Other lawyers have to trust them. The whole legal system depends on attorneys being honest. So when you say a lawyer made up communications or lied about getting client permission, you're saying he's dishonest and unethical. And that's not just an insult. That threatens his ability to earn a living. I mean, he refers to himself as the lead attorney. So, like for instance, I just say I'm Dennis Spurling. I call this the Dennis Spurling podcast. But when you refer to yourself as the lead attorney, basically you're leading with the fact that this. I am an attorney. I'm an officer of the court. I'm a representative of the state bar in the form of I'm a member of the bar. So you're threatening his ability to earn a living. And it's like accusing a doctor of harming a patient on purpose or faking medical records. And so, and some professions survive on reputation, and the law is one of them. And when you question a lawyer's honesty in front of thousands, it's probably millions of people, you're attacking the very thing that allows him to practice law. And that's why attorneys protect their reputation so strongly. And once credibility is damaged, even unfairly, that sort of thing can follow them in the courtrooms and affect their careers. And that's just, and see, this is not just YouTube drama anymore. These are serious accusations. Now, let me give you another disclaimer, okay? I met the lead attorney in New York. If you all have ever been to Kevin Samuel's YouTube page or checked out his community tab, the last photograph that Kevin posted was of him, me, mediocre tutorials and reviews, and the lead attorney. That photograph was taken by my fiance, now my wife, at a warehouse in Brooklyn in 2022. And we met him. I found him to be very respectful. And I'm talking about the lead attorney. He's a very, very respectful, very professional, very calm. He carried himself very well. He's not like, he was, very decent young man. And my fiance was there, and I respect them both as a licensed attorney and as a content creator. And so, that's my personal impression. Again, I only met him once, but, more importantly, he's still a licensed attorney. If I could find this, photograph in New York, I'd show you guys. Let me see. I don't think I've ever shown this photograph of us hanging out. Well, not hanging out. We were basically working, talking about business. Let me see if I can find this. I don't know if I can. Let me see if I can. If you guys hang with me for a minute. Nope, I don't seem to be able to find it, but we were out on walking from one part of New York to the other with Kevin Samuels, and I think I have this. If you guys will bear with me for y'all want me to try to find a picture of me, Kevin Samuels, and MTR in New York, it probably nobody's ever. If you want me to, I can do that. Otherwise, I can proceed forward with the broadcast. Let me know if you guys want me to just go proceed forward And of course, I didn't share any of photos because, they don't want anybody, you know how, it's YouTube, you know what I'm saying? You don't want people to know where you are because got a lot of crazy people out there. But let me see if I can find this photograph. And I think it was back in 2022. So we can, let me see here. Give me 1 second. I apologize for the delay. But, I'm just moving through these photographs quick as I can here. Give me 1 second. And I will try to find it for you. Oh, boy. Well, I don't know. I'm looking. I'm not sure. Well, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'll find it later and post it up. But yeah, so bottom line is this. I met him before. Decent man, very respectful, very calm. But again, this is about him being a licensed attorney. And when you publicly call a licensed attorney a liar, especially after he shows documents that support his side, you could be opening yourself up for a defamation claim. And you also need to understand how hard it is to become a lawyer, okay? All right? You understand? It's not something you just decide to do one day. Yes, you got to go to college, then law school. And then you need to pass the bar. But that's only part of it, because before you can even take the bar, you need to pass a detailed character and fitness review. They look at your criminal records. They look at your fitness review. They look at your lawsuits you may have against you, your tax history. They look at your credit history, look at your child support, even traffic tickets. Okay? And you have to report bankruptcy collections, prior arrests, any situation where honesty was questioned. And they can contact references. They can run background checks. And if you fail to tell them something, or if something doesn't match up, you can be denied before you even become a licensed attorney. They won't even let you take the bar. And here's the thing, it doesn't end there. Once you become an attorney, the scrutiny continues. Lawyers are officers of the court. If you get a DUI, you commit fraud, you misrepresent facts in court, or do something that questions your honesty, someone can file a complaint against you with the bar. You can be disciplined. You can be suspended. You can be disbarred and lose your license. Being a lawyer is not a right, it's a privilege. And that's why lawyers guard their reputation so closely. Credibility is everything. And in this profession, courts must trust what you say. Clients must believe your advice, and the other attorneys must trust that you're acting in good faith. So when someone goes online and says that a licensed attorney lied about something involving client permission, that's not just disagreement over podcast content. That is accusing a lawyer of dishonesty while doing lawyer work. And that's why the lead attorney responded strongly. He wasn't just defending his YouTube channel, he was defending his license and his integrity and his hard-earned career. And he did what lawyers are trained to do. He showed the evidence, he presented the written messages, he laid out the timeline. When your professional integrity is in question, you respond with proof. And that's what he did. And that's also why his response seemed so intense. And from what I've seen, the man normally, he's calm, analytical. You watch his page, he doesn't usually escalate situations. But see, this was not about ego. It was about protecting his professional name. And he even mentioned something that is true in the legal world. Lawyers do not lightly criticize other lawyers in public. We understand how serious that is. We know how fast reputations get damaged. And so when an attorney feels a need to speak critically about another lawyer's conduct, that shows the situation has gone beyond a normal disagreement. Now, this situation involves not just entertainers and podcasters, okay? But licensed professionals whose reputations are at stake. And all of this started from what basically was a podcast exchange in California between Anton Daniels and Cory Holcomb. And from there, it grew into something much bigger. And now you have several black men with huge platforms, not me, because I don't even have 100,000 subscribers. And you all will not hit the subscribe button right now like you should. But nevertheless, those guys, those guys with those huge platforms, you understand? Here they are, in this public fight, this dispute, and it's getting more serious by the week. And see, that's why I'm speaking. Not to make it worse, but to hopefully bring the temperature down over here in Black YouTube, bring some perspective before it goes any further. At some point, someone has to step in and be the voice of reason, okay? Now, I like all of these brothers. I like to hear their voices. I grew up in the time period where all we had was the Cosby Show. We didn't get to hear black men speak. We didn't hear to get any nothing. It was never that. So I like the fact that we have all these different options, and I don't want to mess this up. And so I don't want us to blow it up. I don't want us to get a bad reputation, especially people as valuable as O'Shea and lead attorney. And Cory Holcomb's a funny guy. He's an old school comedian. I remember him from back in the day. And I want to see this thing keep going, But again, so let me throw some water on these flames. So let's be clear about something. Based on what I've seen, Cory Holcomb does not appear to have a strong defamation case against the lead attorney. Okay? I mean, the reason is simple. Truth is a complete defense to defamation. And if the lead attorney has written messages showing that Cory's attorney told him he was cleared to speak, then those messages are real, documented, and then the claim that he made it up, it falls apart. You can't win a defamation lawsuit if the statements made are substantially true. Courts do not decide cases against hurt feelings, okay? They don't look at whether they look at whether the statement was false or true. If the documents support the lead attorney's version of the events, then it becomes a powerful defense. On the other hand, the lead attorney may now possibly have a claim against Cory Holcomb for defamation. Isn't that amazing? See, when you publicly call a licensed attorney a liar, excuse the jelly jar, when you call an attorney a liar, especially in front of hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people, viewers, that meets the definition of publication. That's the publication requirement for defamation. And in simple terms, publication just means the statement was shared with other people, okay? And broadcasting something to a large audience clearly qualifies. And if it can also be shown that the statements were made recklessly or without knowledge, or should I say with knowledge that they were false, then the issue of actual malice may come to play, especially if the lead attorney is considered a limited public figure. Now, look, what that does is it puts Cory at odds with his attorney right then and there. So I did tell you. No, you didn't. Here's the email here's a text message I sent to you. I did tell you that lead attorney wanted me to appear on the broadcast, and you said cool, or you said whatever. You said, I don't know, I'm just speculating at this point. I don't know. But if he has proof, then that means now this lawyer is at odds with his client. And if that comes out, well, you knew when you said it any day, now we're looking at recklessness. Okay? Okay, now we're looking at reckless with knowledge, knowing it was false. Okay, and then the issue of actual malice can come into play, especially if the lead attorney is considered, like I said, a limited public figure. Courts will look at how often the statements were repeated, and we see Cory saying it over and over again in the little broadcast, right? The tone used, and whether there was reckless disregard for the truth. He said some horrible things about the lead attorney. I believe, he said some things. Y'all can say what he said about the lead attorney. He said some horrible things about brother. You see? So if I'm sitting up as the judge, I'm saying, yeah, that'll work. I'll send that to the jury. And you never know what a jury is going to do, especially with Cory Holcomb's, some of the statements he's made in some of the other videos, which will come in. And see, then there's another thing people forget. Sometimes the legal process itself is punishment. Lawsuits are expensive. Even if you win in the end, you may spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in attorney's fees and depositions, and expert witnesses and court filing. And so, even if someone wins a $50,000, $100,000 judgment, they might have to spend $150,000, $200,000 fighting the case. Lawsuits are not just about who's right. They're about time and money and stress and strategy. And that's why experienced lawyers usually tell clients to slow down. Somebody type slow down. Slow your roll. Slow down before turning internet arguments into courtroom battles. Okay? Now, let me explain how easy it would be for a lead attorney to kind of, win this thing. Okay, let's talk about a concept called defamation. You know about defamation. It requires false statement of fact published to a third party that harms someone's reputation. All right, the quick summary of that is basically when a statement attacks a person, when you make a false statement about somebody and it's published, it means you say it. There was a case out of Texas here where one college professor said something to another college professor, and the person that was being talked about got wind of it and sued him and won. And that was just a private phone conversation. You see? So that's the extent of published. Okay? Now, when the statement attacks a person in their profession, especially regarding integrity, competence, that can fall under what's known as defamation per se. Okay, and per se typically means we'll just say as a rule. In other words, that is it. That's you say attorney lied. That's defamation per se. You say a doctor creates some false medical records, purposely unalive somebody. Defamation per se. And see, defamation per se applies when the statement is so inherently damaging that the harm is presumed. And so traditionally, this includes statements that accuse someone of a crime, allege they have some loathsome disease. In other words, telling people that they have narcissism or they have, what do they call it? What somebody houses in Virginia? You guys are crazy. Or some sort of horrible sexual conduct, or injure someone in their trade or profession or business, and calling a practicing attorney a liar is in connection with their professional dealings. It strikes directly at his fitness to practice law. See, an attorney's credibility is foundational, and courts, clients, and colleagues rely on his honesty and veracity. So when you publicly tell hundreds of thousands of people, or millions of people or followers that a lawyer fabricated communications or lied about clearance to speak, you're directly attacking his professional integrity. Now add this to the equation. Cory Holcomb has a massive platform. He speaks to hundreds of thousands of, maybe millions of people or viewers across different channels and clips. And so when you say something on a platform that large, it's no longer private. It's published. And in defamation law, publication simply means a statement was communicated to a third party. It doesn't matter if it was 1 or 1 million, okay? But when you broadcast to that many people, that element is clearly satisfied. And so if the statements made about the lead attorney are false, and he has attempted to show he's shown us with these written receipts that they are, then you move into legally actionable territory. And in cases of defamation per se, shout out to Penelope. What's up, baby girl? In cases of defamation per se, especially those involving persons in their profession, the law presumes harm. The law presumes harm, okay? You don't always have to show a specific dollar loss, because the accusation itself, calling the lawyer dishonest, naturally damages his professional standing. And the lawyer's credibility is his livelihood. And once that is attacked, the injury is assumed. So he doesn't have to go in there and show that he lost any money. The mere fact that it's a lie and you lied on a lawyer in his professional capacity, you're out of here. You see? As far as the judge is concerned, so your motion to dismiss is going to fail and it's going to go to the jury. Now, that doesn't mean a lawsuit is automatically going to be won. Okay, you never know what a jury is going to do. Because, truth is an absolute defense. And if the statement is true, there's no defamation. There's also the public figure considerations. Clearly, lead attorney is a public figure. He has a whole 500,000 followers or something like subscribers like that, millions of views. And if someone is deemed a public figure or a limited purpose public figure, they may have to prove actual malice. And that the statement was made knowingly false or with reckless disregard for truth. And that's a higher legal standard. So in the situation with Cardi B and Tasha K, Tasha K said these things over and over again, and she knew it was false, alleging that Cardi B had these sexually transmitted diseases, and that was malicious. And that's why the judge not only awarded the damage, but they also awarded the punitive damages, okay? But see, here's the bottom line. When you publicly question the honesty of a licensed professional, especially in the connection with his ethical duties, you're no longer just arguing on YouTube, okay? You're stepping into serious legal territory. And unlike the complicated jurisdictional issues, O'Shea Duke Jackson would you be dealing with trying to mess with him, right? Trying to sue somebody overseas in Uganda. A defamation claim between two U.S.-based folk, it doesn't face those same structural obstacles. And that changes the calculus entirely, okay? Now, I found this entertaining. I'm gonna play. I want to do this again because I have to go. I gotta go and play back what he said about the gentleman. Okay, I'm gonna play what the lead attorney said about the gentleman because I just found this entirely too interesting.
There are two competing ways to look at this situation. The first way to look at.
Now, I want to break this down line by line just because he's not cursing, but this is lawyer cursing. Okay, I'm gonna explain the lawyer cursing that's going on. I'm gonna be lead attorney's angry interpreter right quick. Okay, so you guys just roll with me for a minute because he really said a lot without saying a lot. Okay, but y'all still with me? Hit the number 1 button if you can hear me clearly. But let's listen to what the lead attorney has to say. All right, let's listen to what the brother now. But let me say this first. Now, look, this young lawyer that represents Cory Holcomb, in my opinion, he's the one that stands to lose the most in this particular situation, okay? Because you now have a well-known attorney in the black community, the lead attorney, someone who has built a recognizable brand, who's appeared on major platforms, and establish credibility over time. He's a household name in certain circles. And now you're entangled in a public dispute where reckless statements are being thrown around and it doesn't appear to be slowing down. And see, this is no place, this is not a good place for a practicing lawyer, okay? And so what we're gonna do is, as I said, we're gonna go step by step, line by line. And the lead attorney, we're gonna start with where he said those two competing possibilities. Okay, let's listen. You hit the number 1 button if you can hear it clearly. All right, somebody type fair use and praise the Lord. Hallelujah.
All right, Cory, there are two competing ways to look at this situation. The first way to look at it is that you are just a liar. You are lying. You lied about me in the past and you are continuing to lie about me. Now, this is apart from all the disrespect and all the jokes. I'm talking about straight lying. That's the first way to look at this. Now, the second way to look at it is that you are not lying and that you have chosen a bootleg attorney to
Let's slow down. Let's hold on. Now, when the lead attorney says, there's two competing possibilities. He wasn't just giving a neutral analysis. He was narrowing the situation down to a forced choice. Either Cory is lying or Cory hired an incompetent lawyer. And that isn't casual commentary. It's a clear framing of the issue. You see, he set it up so that one or two people has to be, he set it up so that one of two people has to be wrong. And that client, that's the client or the attorney. So now what you got going on is you have a conflict of interest brewing, because somebody's gonna have to throw somebody under the bus. You see, and normally judges don't really care what the damn lawyer has to say. If somebody's wrong, 9 times out of 10, it's gonna be the attorney. You know how y'all feel about attorneys, y'all. Used car salesmen, attorneys. That's kind of where y'all, and tow truck drivers, that's where y'all rank people. You see what I'm saying? And so it's all bad. It's all bad. It's all bad. Let's keep listening. Praise Moses.
Is that you are not lying and that you have chosen a bootleg attorney to represent you. Now, how do I know that these are the only two ways to look at this situation? Well, I'm about to explain it to you right now. But I do want to say one thing first. You were saying that you were so disrespectful to me and I didn't respond. And you're saying, well, since I didn't respond, that shows that I knew that you were the man that you claimed to be. Now, Cory, you are making a mistake on this. I didn't respond, but for a very different reason. I didn't respond to you, Cory. I didn't respond to your disrespect because I didn't want to embarrass you. On one of your last shows, you brought up this attorney that you had retained, this gentleman named Derek. Now, this is an attorney that you chose.
I didn't say the man's name. We not repeating the name in here. We ain't getting in that. We not doing it. Y'all go over there to lead attorneys channel, and I'm not playing. I don't know nothing. I'm just talking about legal matters over here, okay? But here's the thing I want to say. When he pointed earlier in one of the videos, he pointed out the fact that he'd been practicing law nearly 25 years. Y'all remember that? And here's the thing. He understands the attorney-client obligations. And he wasn't just giving you his background. That wasn't about giving the resume. He was establishing authority. You understand what I'm saying? He was experienced, professional standing. He was basically saying, I know how this works, son. There's no confusion here on me, you see? And when someone with that much experience says there are only two explanations, he's making it clear that he doesn't believe this was some innocent misunderstanding. When he explained the duty to obtain informed consent before speaking publicly, he was doing more than discussing legal ethics. Shout out to Faquan. He was highlighting that this is a basic rule of practice, okay? And it is. It is. I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad, but it is. Everybody's gonna get a letter. Even if I don't accept you as a client, you're gonna get a letter, okay? And see, again, this is not a small detail. It's foundational. In simple terms, no competent attorney agrees to interview on behalf of his client without clearing it first. So if clearance was claimed, it had to come from somewhere. And when he said he takes his reputation seriously, not like YouTubers who just talk, y'all remember he said that? That was intentional. He was separating himself from the online personalities and placing himself firmly in the professional category. He was saying, I operate without saying, I operate under the bar rules. I answer to judges. I follow ethical standards. And that's not someone speaking loosely. That's someone defending a professional license. And when he mentioned that lawyers don't throw other lawyers under the bus, that wasn't just professional courtesy. Okay? It was a warning. Attorneys protect the profession. We police each other. We literally have something called the Bar Association that is where licensed attorneys review bar complaints by other licensed attorneys. You see? That's how deep this is. You see what I'm saying? So So because we know how hard it is to get a license, so for him to publicly criticize another attorney's lawyer's conduct or practice, he believes something very serious has happened. And when one lawyer questions another's handling of something this basic, it carries a lot of weight. All right, and then there was we heard the bootleg. There's the language he used, bootleg, or a pretty bootleg response, or sketchy. Those words weren't random. And in professional terms, that questions the competence and credibility. And the meaning was clear. Without saying it directly, he was suggesting the explanation didn't make sense and didn't match how an experienced attorney would operate. And the public is hearing that. You understand? Man, if somebody called me a bootleg attorney, another lawyer called me a bootleg attorney, I might be ready to fight. You understand what I mean? That's how serious that is. Your reputation is everything. And he also stressed that he didn't want to embarrass Cory Holcomb, and he didn't want to expose those private communications between him and Cory's lawyer, because, at this point, that bridge might be burnt. I don't know. I don't want to get in it. I haven't spoken to any of these people, But framing matters. It makes him appear measured and reasonable, and when someone who presents themselves as calm and restrained finally releases receipts, it suggests that they felt forced to do so. And more importantly, he relied on documentation, and he showed the public. That's not emotion, and that's not insults. He leaned on written communication and professional standards, and that tells the audience this isn't about personality, it's about process. So what was he really saying? He was saying that either the facts were misrepresented or basic legal duties were mishandled. He was saying that the interview clearance isn't vague or confusing. He was saying that claiming a gag order after previously discussing the case raises credibility questions. And he was making it clear that professional integrity matters. He didn't need to directly call anyone any names like incompetent. He laid out the facts and let the audience connect the dots. And that isn't emotional ranting, it's controlled dismantling. And when an experienced attorney carefully breaks down the narrative in public while emphasizing ethics and documentation, he's doing something deliberate, protecting his license and defending his credibility. And that's what this is. That's what this was. Now I'm gonna I got a few more things to say, and then I'm gonna let you guys go. This is gonna be the broadcast for the evening. Okay. Normally I talk about a lot of other historical matters and things like that, but we're not gonna do that tonight, are we? Not today. I got other stuff to do. But I wanted to take the opportunity to deal with that. Now, if you guys have any questions, you can put them in the super chat. And if it's a real good question, I might read it in the regular comments section. But let's go ahead and take care of these people who contribute to the Cash App first, and then we'll work on the people who came through. Did you guys learn something? If you learned something, let me know. Did you learn a little bit about? Y'all learned you better watch your mouth. That's what you should have learned. You better watch your mouth. Let me see here. Big shout out to who we got here. Let's see. Angela Harris, thank you so much. I appreciate you for the Cash App. And then also, again, for my crowd, this is not what we normally talk about over here. So I don't, like I always say, if you learn something, I should earn something. But I know we don't normally talk about these things over here. But I hope you all appreciate this. You hope this is kind of like a public service announcement, trying to, calm these flames down. But GAP session, thank you for the $2 super sticker. Also, Eddie B912, Uncle D, just like me, the lead attorney, hit him up, signed the ghost of Pac and damn, I know, man, it's real. That's why I was like, man, I had to do part from my normally scheduled broadcast and deal with this. Black Jesus flipped over tables and regulated. Thank you so much, Red Sigma. CDUON, CU the one. Thank you for the $10 super sticker. Eddie B9102, Russell's over in Bali saying, run DMC. Yeah, that's right. 48 laws equal. I can't say that. I'm going to call you 48 laws. Okay, you got all these fancy names. I'm not going to say all that. I'll put you up there. There's too much to say. I'm not going to sit up here and embarrass myself playing with you. But welcome to the membership, 48 Law. That's what you're going to be. You gifted 5. Welcome all 5 people that he gave memberships to. Thank you. But I'm still not going to say you. Too many words. Look at that. I don't even know what that means. I see 48 Laws, war. That's all I see. But anyway, shout out to Penelope. See that? That's a nice name. Can't say this, Penelope. Cory hasn't a clue what he's dealing with. He gonna learn today. LOL, learn things as usual. Thank you so much, baby. I appreciate you. My man, Fuquan, $5 super sticker. Also, Fuquan, thank you. We got 11 super chats. We did all right. All right. Good looking out, everybody. I hope y'all learned something. You guys make sure you tag this. Feel free to chop it up and pass it around. I try to keep it family friendly. All my regulars in here say family friendly. Yeah, baby, family friendly. We didn't use any profanity or cuss words or any of that. And anyway, let's do this. Let's finish up this public service announcement. I think Cory Holcomb's lawyer, whose name I haven't said, needs to have a serious conversation with his client because, while a media personality can survive controversy, sometimes even thrive on it, conflict sells, messy, right? A lawyer can't afford prolonged public doubt about competence and professionalism. Let me tell you, if that young lawyer is watching me, judges watch, opposing counsel watches, your law school classmates are watching. Okay? Lawyers in your hometown jurisdiction are watching you. Right? Yeah. And some of those judges, some of my judges already. Some on their way. And your reputation in the legal profession is cumulative and fragile. It takes decades to build and seconds to damage. Now, according to what has been stated, this attorney is about 14 or 15 years in the practice. And in our profession, that still qualifies as a relatively young lawyer. And many lawyers practice for 30, 35 years. And the first 5 years, you're learning not to drown. And the first 15, you're still refining judgment. And it's really around about 15 years, Mark, that's when you really begin to stride as an attorney and professionally and financially. So this is not, the stage in your career where you want your name associated with public back and forths, young brother. And that call your competence into question. And when a respected attorney publicly characterizes your conduct in harsh terms, that sticks. Fair or unfair, it lingers in Google searches, in bar gossip, and in courtroom whispers. And I don't know this young man personally, although I do have an associate who attended law school with him. I haven't reached out to him, okay? None of my business, okay? But my professional suggestion would be simple. You need to have a heart-to-heart conversation with your client and rein in the rhetoric. Because at the end of the day, the entertainer will continue entertaining. The lawyer, however, must protect his license that feeds his family and sustains his lifetime career. And, and I would hate to see a black lawyer 15 years into building something meaningful have that momentum disrupted because of a client who's speaking publicly in ways that create long-term reputational consequences. You see? Clients sometimes they write emotional checks. My lawyer is going to sue you, whether we talking about family law or civil law or whatever. Lawyers are the one who has to cash them with their name and their bar card and their future on the line. Shout out to Digital Technology Union 4040. And let me close. I want to say it like this, and this is why I feel like it's my obligation to talk about this. Okay. Black attorneys make up like 1% of the lawyers in the U.S. And most of them are women. You understand? Even still, it's a very small number. And every black lawyer who earns and keeps a license carries more than just a business card. He carries representation. He carries the sacrifices of the people who came before us, those black people. And this brother went to a HBCU, undergrad and grad. You understand what I'm saying? So, it's not just about him. You all see why this is something I felt that I needed to address? You understand where I'm coming from? Because what's said, what's understood don't really need to be said like that, right? The reason I'm speaking now is because we're not just talking about internet personalities. We're talking about two black attorneys, the lead attorney and the other brother who represents or was said to represent Cory Holcomb, men I either know personally or I'm connected to through people and whose reputations and careers are tied to this public dispute. And that matters. And this kind of public escalation, it doesn't help the profession, and it certainly doesn't help black men who are already underrepresented in it. And at some point, cooler heads have to prevail. And this doesn't need to go any further. It doesn't need to get uglier. And for the sake of profession and for the sake of dignity, I hope this comes to a close. And, the thing is, as I said, entertainers are going to entertain. You see, it's the reason I don't represent entertainers. And you don't want to be a public spectacle. You want to maintain that level of professionalism. And that's really all I have to say. I'd like to thank everybody for the time they spent with me here today. I hope you all have learned something. Feel free to tag your friends. I thank you all for your time and patience. And everything I've said comes from a place of love. I've tried to do no harm in this. I've tried to just be the voice of reason, if you will. And I offer my advice here, generally speaking, and hopefully it'll throw a cool bucket of water, a ice cold bucket of water on these flames, and people can go back to entertaining the public and having a good time and doing what they normally do instead of beefing with each other. Last thing we need to see a bunch of black men, millionaire black men out here beefing with each other. Okay? I love you all. God bless you. I appreciate y'all. At this time, I'd like to say good night, and I am out.
In the Spurling podcast, hit the like button, subscribe.